Hey everyone, today I'm talking about my Doctor Who DVD and Blu-ray collection. You guys know I'm a big Doctor Who fan. I became a fan when the new series started in 2005 and was really surprised to learn that there's this whole classic series with a ton of stories and a lot of different actors as the Doctor. So I started buying DVDs and just really to check the show out and really fell in love with it. And I've been buying DVDs ever since. Unfortunately, in the past couple of years, I have kind of slacked on picking titles up, and some of them have gone out of print, and the prices have gone up. There is a possibility. I would think probably in the next few years they'll probably re-release, some titles in the series, but until then, I'm not going to be able to get a full collection, but it's okay because there are still a ton of Doctor Who DVDs that are still fairly affordable that I need. So let's go ahead and start this off. Now, I'm not going to really talk too much about the episode. I actually tried to film this before and was talking about every single episode, and the video turned into be almost like 40 minutes long, so I don't really want it to be that long. So first up, we have Lost in Time. This is a collection of rare episodes. And basically, what happened was in the late 60s, early 70s, the BBC had like a warehouse with film reels in it, and they didn't really think about rerunning shows. That wasn't really a thing then. They did it sometimes when they didn't really have anything to put in its place, but it just wasn't a thing that was done at that time, and so they needed to make room and wound up burning a lot of the and just trashing a lot of the older episodes. And this affects not just Doctor Who but a lot of older British shows. So luckily, some have been found, like the Web of Fear and the Enemy of the World, and a few episodes of different TV stations around the world that the BBC actually sold stories to. So that's what this is. This has multiple episodes. Sometimes in a story, they only have, like in a 4-part episode, they only have episodes maybe like 1 and 3 or something like that. So This includes episodes from The Crusade, Dalek's Master Plan, The Celestial Toymaker, The Underwater Menace, The Moon Base, which was actually released on DVD with animated episodes, The Faceless Ones, The Evil of the Daleks, The Abominable Snowman, The Enemy of the World, and Web of Fear, which of course have been found, The Wheel in Space, and The Space Pirates. This also has a nice 50-minute featurette on the missing years about how a lot of the episodes were lost. So I would definitely recommend picking this up if you can find it. Then we have The Beginning. This is a collection that includes the first 3 stories of the show. And we have An Unearthly Child, which good pilot episode, but then it's a 4-part story. The last 3 episodes really dive into caveman politics, and it's just not that good. But I did a review of it on this channel on the Whovian Shelf, so definitely check that out. Also have the Daleks. Of course, I first introduced the Daleks. I think this is around like 7 to 8-part story. It's decent. It definitely has some iconic scenes in it. Then The Edge of Destruction. This also includes a 30-minute condensed version of the lost 7-part story Marco Polo, so that's another reason to pick this up. And I should mention I'm talking about these all in order. So next we have The Keys of Marinus. This was written by Terry Nation. One of the few stories that he wrote that has nothing to do with Daleks. But this is a good one. I really enjoy this one. I think this is a 4-part episode. I could be wrong, but it's like each episode kind of is its own thing, has its own genre. It's kind of neat. I would definitely recommend that one. We've got The Aztecs. This is a great historical story. They basically, Barbara, as a history teacher, tries to change the past by stopping the Aztecs from doing human sacrifices. And it has the famous line, "You can't rewrite history, not one line." But yeah, there's a special edition of this out that has better video quality and more special features. Now we have, The Reign of Terror. This is another historical story. Not all that good. And what I mean by historical story is basically they get caught up in historical events, and there really aren't any sci-fi elements other than the time machine. But this is another one where a couple episodes are missing where they actually animated some. And I should say that for all of the stories that are lost, we actually have the complete soundtracks to them, the audio recordings. So you can, for all the lost stories, you can actually buy the audio soundtracks. You get a lot of them from Audible.com and a lot of different places. But I've listened to a lot that way, and it also has like linking narration, so you can follow along with what's going on. I definitely recommend looking into those. This is story number 10, the Dalek Invasion of Earth. This is a fun episode, but yeah. Now we've got The Rescue, The Romans. This is a 2-part story followed by, I think, a 4-part story. The Rescue is okay. It's really there to introduce a new companion because Susan actually left in Dalek Invasion of Earth. And The Romans is a really fun episode. It's kind of the Doctor Who takes on comedy, and it's pretty funny, but also has some serious stuff in it as well. Definitely recommend this one. Then we've got The Web Planet, an overly ambitious episode with insects on the planet. I can't remember the name of the planet, but yeah, the costumes are. Oh yeah, it's not good. We have The Time Meddler, one of my personal favorites. Definitely recommend this one. This is a really cool story. The Ark, kind of famous for the aliens there with the Beatles-style haircuts. The Gunfighters, it's pretty terrible. Has this song, I think it's called "The Last Chance Saloon," which goes on and on. They play it after every act break. It's really, really terrible. The War Machines has some great cliffhangers in it. I really like this one. The Moon Base, of course, this is another one where a couple of the episodes were missing, but they animated them. This is a decent episode, but not a great Cybermen story. Then we have a pretty good Cybermen story. It's Tomb of the Cybermen. This was actually one that was thought lost until it was found in 1992. And I believe they have a special edition of this one out with better picture quality and more special features. Now brings us to the Dominators. This is okay. It's not very good. This is the first and I think only appearance of the Quarks. They were trying to create kind of a new Dalek type race, but it just they didn't catch on. And then the Dominators have these weird vest things that look like turtle shells or something. I don't know. The Mind Robber, really imaginative story. They get stuck in the land of fiction, and it's fun. Have The Invasion, one of the second Doctor's classic stories. You have to pick this up. You really do. It's really great. It has a great villain. The Cybermen in it are really well done. You've got Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart in this. And also this is one where they animated some of the missing episodes. We've got The Seeds of Death. This is, I believe, this is the second Ice Warrior story, and it's not very good. But there is a special edition of this out. We've got the second Doctor's Swan Song in the War Games. I really like this story. It is a bit long. There is a lot of running around and getting captured and then escaping and then getting recaptured. But it's still a really good story. I definitely recommend this one. Now, I don't have the first Third Doctor story on DVD anymore. They actually did a special edition of it, and I want to pick it up on Blu-ray. It's actually the only Doctor Who story, as far as the classic series is concerned, that was released on Blu-ray. And I won't get into why now, but maybe when I pick it up, I'll do a whole video on it. But this is the second Third Doctor story. It's the Silurians. Of course, the Silurians came back in the new series with much better makeup work and costumes. But this is a good story. It really shows the kind of volatile relationship between the Doctor and the Brigadier. And I like this one quite a bit. One of my favorite Third Doctor stories is Inferno. This is really, really well done. Has the Doctor going into a parallel universe and seeing the Brigadier with, you know, the eye patch, and a lot of the characters are evil in it, and it's just really well done. There's a special edition of this available. Got The Claws of Axos. I think there's a special edition of this one available. I'm not really sure. This is an okay story. We have The Demons. This is a story that a lot of Doctor Who fans say is a classic and it's great, and I have to say it's a bit overrated, honestly. It definitely has some great atmosphere in it, but the way the Doctor's written, he's kind of a jerk to his companion, Jo Grant. And, you know, Unit doesn't really do much in it. They just kind of sit around for most of the episode. I don't know, it's okay. Then we have another one of my favorite Third Doctor stories. It's Day of the Daleks. This is a really good story. Kind of has a plot of the Terminator, where these group of rebels actually go back in time to try and stop this basically World War III from happening, which the Daleks used to kind of take over. But really good. Definitely recommend this one. We've got The Curse of Peladon. Another classic Third Doctor story. I like this one a lot. Definitely pick it up. Got the Sea Devils. The Sea Devils are the Silurians' cousin, and this one is okay. Definitely has some great interaction between the Doctor and the Master. We've got the Three Doctors. This was the 10th anniversary special where all three Doctors got to come together. Well, the second and the third Doctor did anyway. The first Doctor, unfortunately, William Hartnell was pretty sick at the time, and really was able to only film scenes from his garage, and but this is another one of the stories that I think is overrated. This is still fun, but not as good as a lot of people say. And I should say there's also a special edition of that one available. Then we've got Carnival of Monsters. This is a special edition. This is a really imaginative story. This is by Robert Holmes. And I like the story. Some of the execution isn't as good as it could be. A lot of the makeup on some of the characters, you can see like some of the costumes just start that it's peeling off, or the costume is like too big for the actor. It's not that great with that, but the story is good. We've got Frontier in Space. This is one that is pretty good, and it actually comes with a I think like a Dalek War box set. It comes with Planet of the Daleks, which is a decent Dalek story. Then we have The Green Death. I'm pretty sure there's a special edition of this one out as well. But this is known for the departure of the Third Doctor's companion, Jo Grant, and for giant maggots. So I would definitely recommend that one. Got The Time Warrior, notable for being the first appearance of the Sontarans and the first appearance of the Third Doctor's companion, Sarah Jane Smith. And it's a pretty good story to boot. Then we have Death to the Daleks. This is a terrible, terrible Dalek story. Just really, really bad, and has a laughable cliffhanger. Then we have the Fourth Doctor's first story, as played by Tom Baker. And it's Robot. This is a pretty good story, not great, but it's a really well done first really well done first episode for Doctor, first story for Doctor. Then we have Ark in Space, and this is a solid Doctor Who story. This is one by Robert Holmes, and this was actually special to me because this is the first Doctor Who classic series story that I watched, and this is when I fell in love with the show. So, and I believe there's a special edition of this one out too. Alright, that brings us to the Sontaran experiments. This is a two-part story, and it's decent. Nothing great about it, but it's decent. We have Genesis of the Daleks, a classic Fourth Doctor story. Tom Baker's great in this, and it's kind of the Genesis. Obviously, this is the kind of an origin of the Daleks. Brings Davros into it, and it's really good. Then we have Revenge of the Cybermen. This is a pretty bad Cybermen story. Not great. We have Terror of the Zygons. Of course, the Zygons are back now in a two-parter in Series 9 of Doctor Who, and this is a really good story. I like this one a lot. And then we have Pyramids of Mars. What a great story this is. Really atmospheric, and a great villain as well. So this is kind of one of my personal favorite Doctor Who episodes, and it's Planet of Evil. This is kind of a Jekyll Hyde ripoff, but it's more of a reimagining of that, and it's more of kind of like the planet is. I don't know. You really just have to watch it. It's a really cool story. Then we have The Brain of Morbius. It's kind of Doctor Who's take on Frankenstein, but it's a pretty good episode. Then this is a great Tom Baker story. It's The Seeds of Doom, and this is I believe a 6-part story, and this is really well done because the first few episodes are very different from the last couple ones. They kind of have their own story, and then it changes things up a bit. So it works really well as a 6-parter. Then we have The Mask of Mandragora. This is a really nice kind of pseudo-historical story. I like this one a lot. Alright, then we have The Hand of Fear. This is famous for being Sarah Jane Smith's last episode. And the costume design for Eldrad is great. I mean, look at that. It just looks fantastic until the end of the episode. Then it looks terrible. But this is still a pretty good story. We have The Deadly Assassin, another classic Tom Baker episode. Really enjoy this. He goes back to Gallifrey and is confronted by an old enemy. So definitely check that one out. We've got The Face of Evil. Interesting story on this, where the Doctor actually goes to a planet and is confronted by something that he's done in the past, but technically from his point of view, his future, but in this world's past. It's kind of confusing, but it's pretty interesting. We've got The Robots of Death. I'm pretty sure this has a special edition available as well. Really good story. The robots are really creepy and just really good. We've got Horror of Fang Rock. This is a great little horror story. I really like this one a lot. Really atmospheric, just really good. Some annoying side characters in it, but it's still good. We've got Image of the Fendal. This one's okay. In my opinion, it's not that great, but it's okay. Then we have The Sunmakers. This is a weird one by Robert Holmes. It's kind of making fun of taxation, and it's an interesting story. I kind of like it. We have The Invasion of Time. This is kind of a neat story in that it starts out with the Doctor and being kind of you think that he might be going evil on it, and but it all makes sense. All makes sense when you watch it. Then that brings us to season 16, I think, the Key to Time series. I don't have every single episode in this whole series, but they actually do have a box set release, but I think I'm going to try to pick all these up individually. But I've got 3 out of the 6, I think, that make up the season. This is the second part, and it's the Pirate Planet. And this is one by Douglas Adams. This is really imaginative and just a really fun episode. Overall, we have the Androids of Tara. I really enjoyed this one. This is a fun story. And the Power of Kroll, which is okay. Alright, that brings us to Destiny of the Daleks, where we get Lala Ward as Romana II. Davros comes back, and of course the Daleks are back. This is an okay story. It's not a very good Dalek story, but it's okay for what it is. Let's see. Then we have one of my personal favorite Tom Baker stories, and this might be my favorite Doctor Who story of all time. It's City of Death. This is a really, really great story. This was co-written by Douglas Adams, and just really well done. The story's really good. Basically, this alien gets splintered throughout time, and so there are all these different versions of him throughout the Earth's history, and they can all communicate with each other, and they're all working towards one goal. And it's a really good episode. See, then we have Shada. Now, this is an interesting story because it never actually aired. It wasn't complete. There was some kind of strike going on at the time, and they filmed a bit of it, but it was never finished. And if you've ever seen the 25th anniversary special, The Five Doctors, the part that they actually use with Tom Baker is taken from this. So, but what this is actually the what they shot of Shada was actually released on VHS in the 90s, I believe, and I guess in 92, and it has linking video segments with Tom Baker saying what happened, stuff that wasn't filmed in between the episode. So I would definitely recommend picking this up. It also has a 1993 anniversary special, more than 30 years in the TARDIS, so it's a good reason to have that. Then we have The Leisure Hive, and this is the first episode where John Nathan Turner took over as executive producer of the show, and he kind of wanted to have a different feel to the show. So at the beginning of the episode, there's a nice long kind of tracking shot of the beach and the ocean, and this has more of a scientific based story to it. It's not great, but it's decent. Alright, then that brings us to the E-Space trilogy, which actually includes Full Circle, which is kind of a weird story, but good, actually. I like this one. It has the first appearance of Adric, who is probably the most beloved of the companions. Not really. He's the most hated and despised. Then we have a really good story, State of Decay. The Doctor faces off against some space vampires, and man, this is a really, really, really cool episode. Then Warrior's Gate. This is a trippy episode, man. This is weird, and it's got Ewan McGregor there as the lion. Not really, but I mean, that does look a lot like him, doesn't it? But yeah, this really strange episode. This brings us to the tail end of the Fourth Doctor's era with the Keeper of Traken, and this is a really good episode in my opinion. I like this one a lot. First appearance of Nyssa and the return of the Master. Then we have Tom Baker's final episode, Logopolis, and this is an okay story. Definitely has some interesting ideas. With Christopher H. Bidmead writing this, definitely has a more scientific approach. But some of it's just kind of, especially for kids, will go over your head, and it's kind of dull. But the Doctor gets to go out in a decent way, I guess. Then we have the Fifth Doctor, as played by Peter Davidson. His first story, and that is Castrovalva. This is an okay story. The Doctor is suffering from post regeneration sickness and kind of is going a little bit crazy and needs to go to this place to heal. Let's see. Then we have Kenda. This is a good story. I like this one. And with this one, it brings in the Mara, which is this alien snake that can get into your head, and it gets into the Doctor's companion, Tegan. And what they did for the DVD is, in the original story, the Mara was portrayed as kind of this big snake puppet, and so they actually replaced it with CGI, and it looks a lot better. And I like this one because it has one of the most ridiculous cliffhangers. One of the characters actually goes mad in this, and one of the cliffhangers is, "I now have the power of life and death over all of you," and that's just how it ends, and it's hilarious. I love it. Then we've got The Visitation. This is a pretty cool story. There's also a special edition of this available. First and only appearance of the Pteroleptals, and also has an explanation for the Great Fire of London. Right. Then we have Black Orchid, which is a return to the historical episodes, and this is a fun little episode. Nothing great about it, but it's decent. It's kind of the calm before the storm that is Earthshock. So the Sidemen return in this, and this is also famous for a companion death. I think a lot of people are happy about. But yeah, this is a pretty good story. Then we have a pretty bad story in Time Flight. Man, what can I say about this? There are plot holes galore in this. The main villain is ridiculous. It's just weird and it's bad. Then we have Arc of Infinity. I quite like this one. This one is more of a Gallifrey episode, and it also has Colin Baker, who went on to be the Sixth Doctor in the series, as a Time Lord by the name of Maxwell. So it's kind of neat to see him in a completely different role in this. Then we have The King's Demons. I think this is a two-part story. Of course, we have the return of the Master and the first appearance of Chameleon. Of course, we have the 25th anniversary edition of the Five Doctors. And to be honest, this is a multi-doctor story. The story's not that good, but you're going to have a fun time with this. If you're a classic series Doctor Who fan, you're going to enjoy it. All right, that brings us to Warriors of the Deep. And with this one, the Silurians and the Sea Devils come back and take over this deep sea base in the future. It's okay. It's okay. Nothing spectacular about it. Then Resurrection of the Daleks, and I believe there is a special edition of this one out. This is actually famous for having a higher body count than the Terminator. So many people die in this. Of course, the return of Davros in this, and has a nice confrontation between the Fifth Doctor and Davros. Planet of Fire. This is an okay episode. There's some weird things about it. You've got a shrunken master and just some odd things, and of course you have Chameleon in there as well. And of course we have the final Fifth Doctor story, The Caves of Androzani Special Edition. This is a fantastic story. Has great cliffhangers in it, especially the episode 3 cliffhanger is fantastic. And this is kind of their take on Phantom of the Opera, but it's really, really well done. And then we have the first Sixth Doctor story, The Twin Dilemma. A lot of people hate on this episode, and rightfully so. It's not that good at all. In fact, it's pretty damn bad. But there are some good things about this episode, particularly Colin Baker's performance as the Doctor. And I think for that, it's definitely worth watching it. And with this, they kind of started with the Sixth Doctor kind of being a bit darker and kind of unlikable, and he was supposed to kind of mellow out and become more likable as the seasons progressed. But unfortunately, they didn't really get to show much of that off. Right, and now we have my newest acquisition here. It's Attack of the Cybermen. This is an okay story, but it really does try to fit a lot of continuity and canon together, and it's kind of a mess because of that, but it's still an okay story. Then we have Vengeance on Veros. There is also a special edition of this one out, and this is a decent story, kind of makes fun of reality TV a bit. Okay, then we have The Mark of the Rani. This is her first appearance, and this is a good story. The TARDIS brings the Doctor and Perry to the Luddite Rebellion, and some strange things are going on, as always. And then we have the Two Doctors. This is another multi-Doctor story, and of course it has Patrick Troughton back as the second Doctor. This is a weird story written by Robert Holmes, and has the Sontarans back. And the weird thing with the second Doctor, they brought him back. They didn't even bother dyeing his hair, so there were white streaks in his hair. Of course, he looked, considerably older. They brought Fraser Hines back, the actor that portrayed Jamie, and it was kind of odd because they mentioned the Time Lords in it, and it just kind of sparked this whole season 6B theory that towards the end of the War Games, when the Time Lords actually had the Doctor in custody, they actually before they were going to induce his regeneration and exile into Earth, they sent him on a bunch of different missions, and he picked up Jamie as a companion again. And so it seems that this takes place during season 6B. Then we have Time Lash. This is another one of the stories that a lot of people don't like, and I actually like it. Yeah, there are some bad things in it, but I think the makeup is particularly good on this guy here, the Borad, I think his name is. But also, it brings in H.G. Wells. It's a fun little story. Then we have Revelation of the Daleks, and this is a weird Dalek story. It really is. It takes place on this planet, which is basically a giant funeral home, and they have a DJ for the dead, pretty much. Yeah, it's a weird story, but kind of cool, I guess. Then we have Colin Baker's swan song in a whole season called The Trial of a Time Lord. And this starts off with an episode called The Mysterious Planet. And this is actually a pretty good story. Colin Baker's character, really, with the Sixth Doctor and his companion Perry, basically their relationship was arguing a lot. And this one, the Doctor had mellowed out somewhat, and they became much more friendly towards each other, and their relationship was really well done in this. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see too much more of it, because in the next episode, Mind Warp, this is Perry's final episode, unfortunately. But there's also this overarching story of the Doctor being put on trial, and the episodes come from them viewing his past and his future. And this is a weird story. Not too fond of that one. We have Terror of the Vorvoids. Yeah, look at those guys. They face off against some plants. This is a murder mystery on a ship with plants. And then the last part, The Ultimate Foe. and this is actually pretty good. I liked how this the trial of the Time Lord ended. It's pretty well done in my opinion. Okay, now this brings us to the Seventh Doctor, and I actually don't have a lot of Seventh Doctor stories. I basically have all of the ones I consider to be really good. So first up we have Ghostlight. This is actually known for being the last story they ever shot. But Ghostlight, a lot of people are confused by the story. I think it's a pretty interesting written story. But Mark Platt, if you've ever listened to any of his Big Finish stories, he's kind of known for writing more complex, and kind of weird stories. So this is certainly an interesting one. Then we have The Curse of Fenric. I really like this story. Has these what they're called, plasmavores. They're basically vampires in it, but it's really well done. There's also some I think maybe Norse mythology in this, and it's a really nice story. I like it a lot. Then we have Survival, and this is actually the last classic series story of Doctor Who, and it is I like this story a lot. And the tone of it, the way it's shot, you can definitely it's very easy to go from Survival to watching the very first episode of the new series Rose. Just how it looks, how it's shot, it's very similar. So, but this is, they go to the planet of the cat people, and this is, I like that story a lot. And then we have the movie special edition. Now this is actually a really weird thing, because it's like the BBC went into a co-production with, I think, Universal to make this television movie for Fox. And it was just a weird thing, because this was supposed to be kind of a backdoor pilot where they were going to start a new series, but it was going to be an American series. It's just very strange. Obviously it didn't work out. But Paul McGann is fantastic as the Doctor, and I definitely recommend you go to bigfinish.com and listen to some of his audio adventures, because he's fantastic as the Doctor. I'm glad he got to continue in one form. But this also has Eric Roberts as Master, who's really overacting in it. But a fantastic TARDIS in this, some great extras, really interesting to learn about how that movie came about. Alright, so now we're getting into the new series, and this is where all my Blu-rays are going to come from. So, I used to have, Christopher Eccleston and the David Tennant DVD sets, but I don't anymore. I really just stuck with the Blu-rays, and I'm hoping to get the rest on Blu-ray maybe one day. But first up we have the complete specials. This includes The Next Doctor, Planet of the Dead, The Waters of Mars, and The End of Time Part 1 and 2. There are some decent stories in here. The End of Time works well as the last 10th Doctor story, but there are a lot of bad things about it, which I'll get into one day if I ever review them, but picture quality is great on them. And some good extras as well. Then we have the complete 5th series with Matt Smith taking over the role as the Doctor, and I really love Matt Smith as the Doctor. And this series is a lot of fun. Definitely recommend this one. That brings us to Series 6, and this one is still pretty good. Some great episodes, but yeah, there are a couple episodes that the quality definitely isn't as great. And that is much more apparent in Series 7, which does have some not great episodes in my opinion, but gets a lot better towards the latter half of the season when it introduces a new companion. Because I really do think the Pawns, they kind of, Amy and Rory, they stuck around a little too long. Then let's see. Of course we have An Adventure in Space and Time. This came out in 2013 as part of the 50th anniversary of the show, and I did a review of this on this channel on the Whovian shelf. Definitely check that out. But this is really about the creation of the show, and it's really well done. Definitely recommend that. See, then of course we have the 50th anniversary special, The Day of the Doctor, where we actually get David Tennant back as a doctor, and what was it, William Hurt? It's not William Hurt. It's John Hurt. John Hurt. Of course, it's John Hurt, who's fantastic in this as the War Doctor, and this is also in 3D and it's really well done. I like it a lot. Then we have the 11th Doctor, Swan Song in the Time of the Doctor. This is kind of a mixed bag for an episode, but still pretty good. Has some decent special features on it. Definitely pick that up. And then finally, we have Doctor Who Dark Water, Death in Heaven 3D. This is the two-part finale for Series 8, and I like this a lot. Definitely recommend picking this up. And it also has some special features that aren't available on any other set. So, well, guys, that is it for my Doctor Who DVD and Blu-ray collection. Definitely tell me what you think of my collection, which ones I should go after next, and which ones you have in your collection. So, as always, like the video, share it, and subscribe. Till next time.